Lewis Wall.
Kia ora, Mr. Speaker. Te mangai o te whare, tēnā koutou katoa. Actually, it's a privilege to join my colleagues to contribute to the debate that seeks, through the Māori Purposes Bill, to create a new piece of legislation called the Māori Purposes Wīpere Trust Act 1991. And I think it begs the question, who is Wīpere? And many people have spoken about Wirimi Pere this afternoon, who was Te Aitanga Mahaki, Te Whānau Kai, Rongo Whakata, born in 1837 in Turanga. He was the MP for Eastern Māori between 1893 and 1905, and a man described by Suapiranga Ngata as no man had ever done more for his people. So he is obviously a person, Mr. Speaker, that was visionary, and as my colleague Meka Whaitiri has just pointed out to me, he was also incredibly entrepreneurial. In fact, he would have been probably a large property developer in today's times because he accumulated land. And actually this bill is about land. And it's incredibly ironic for me that this bill is talking about the alienation of Māori land within a context of 40 years ago, Dame Whenekupa leading a hikoi from Te Hapua to us here in Wellington, 1,100 kilometres. This would have been day 2 of the hikoi, Mr. Speaker. And the whole kaupapa of Dame Whena's hikoi was not one more acre of Māori land. And so the point that I want to make primarily is that actually changing the classification of Māori freehold land to general freehold land has huge implications. Māori freehold land, by virtue of it being Māori freehold, is within Te Turu Whenua Māori Act 1993. And what was that designed to do? Actually, it was designed to protect Māori land. And the preamble of the Turu Whenua Māori Act says, while it recognises that land is taonga tuku iho, and it has a special significance to Māori people. And it also highlights that the retention of lands in the hands of owners, whānau and hapu is of utmost importance and significance. So I think the implication of this piece of legislation actually is huge, because what it does is transfers the status of that land to a commodity that actually is easily bought and sold. There's not a lot of protections around it. And actually, if the trust got into trouble because they expanded, then the banks could take it. And that's the other irony of this piece of legislation, because the fact that it's in trust in the first place actually can be traced back to 1899, because Wīpere got into a bit of trouble. And the Bank of New Zealand actually had a mortgage over the land, and the fact that it was put into a trust was in lieu of the land being taken away. So he and other beneficiaries were given time to actually repay the mortgage. And so it took them 6 years. So in 1905, Pere had paid £47,000, which in today's money, Mr. Speaker, is £4,510,000 to reclaim his land. So that's what Wīpere did at that time, and they kept that land in a trust. And so in 1906, we had the establishment of the Wīpere Estates Act, and he was the sole trustee. And so progressively over time, we have had different trustees who have been whānau of Wīpere. And then there was an amendment in 1991, and that Amendment Act empowered 5 trustees who had a 3-year tenure. They had to be a beneficiary, you had to be related by blood to Wīpere. And so we come to the discussions today about the amendment to this piece of legislation that actually, I think, within it, contains something that we must be incredibly wary of. And more than wary, actually, we have to be vigilant, and we have to continue in the legacy, I believe, of Dame Whenekupa and the 50 people, including people like Deirdre Nehua, who I saw on Sunday. I was privileged. I was one of a few people who were invited, Mr. Speaker, to attend an anniversary of the 40th years of our land march by Hinerangi Puru and Joe Cooper, the children of Dame Whena Cooper, at Tūngawaka. And so for me to attend that particular hui, to be part of that commemoration was incredibly special. And I think what bills like this highlight is actually ka whawhai tonu mātou. Just what Ranginui Walker said, struggle without end. Our struggles will never be over. Our struggles to retain, and I'm talking about ours in terms of our mana whenua, our tangata whenua, our whānau, our hapu, our iwi. Actually, we have to be ever watchful of pieces of legislation such as this that actually have the potential to take not more than one more acre of land. And so what I would say to the Select Committee, and so I actually want to commend Nook Korako for actually acknowledging that there are challenges about this piece of legislation that the Māori Affairs Select Committee are going to have to deliberate. And I want to acknowledge the members of the Māori Affairs Select Committee, because I think one of the things that can be amended, for example, is that actually the lands that are currently within the holdings of the Trust should remain Māori freehold land. But actually, if they want to get into commercial developments and purchase other lands, well then that land can be general freehold land. But actually the reserve of land that they currently have, there shouldn't be any ability to change it from Māori freehold to general freehold, which would actually protect the legacy that we've all talked about today of Weremu Pere. Because the fact that he established the Trust was to keep the land forever, for his tamariki, the mokopuna, the uri of Wee Pere. And so I think what we could say, though, is that there will be a distinction of land that the Trust has an ability to purchase once this legislation goes through the House. And actually that can be general freehold land, and they can do whatever they like with that, but they need to safeguard the land that they have for the future generations. So I want to say to my colleagues, kia kaha. I think that this piece of legislation is going to challenge you in many ways. But what I'm hoping is that through the process of the Select Committee, we can actually hear from all the whānau and make sure that the mandate of 91% actually is real, and that we will know once submissions are open whether or not this has widespread support of the whānau. And inherent in this is maintaining the legacy of Wee Pere, his vision for the future, the fact that actually he must have been committed to passing it on to the land to his direct descendants because of the blood requirement. And so we need to help protect and safeguard this piece of whenua, the whenua within the Wee Pere Trust forevermore. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora.